Hey, what's up? I'm Ethan Newberry. This is everything that's happened in The Walking Dead so far. Sheriff's Deputy Rick Grimes wakes up from a coma in an abandoned hospital and discovers that the world's been taken over by walkers, which are zombies that they don't call zombies for some reason. Rick heads to Atlanta hoping to find a CDC safe zone, but there are tons of not zombies there. Luckily, he's rescued by Glenn and discovers that his wife Lori, son Carl, and partner/BFF Shane have been hiding out in the same group, which will be henceforth known as The Group. The Group also includes Andrea, T-Dog, Dale, Carol, her family, Daryl, Merle, and more people you don't really need to get to know that well. Yep, that's right. Spoilers inside of spoilers. Merle's acting crazy, so Rick handcuffs him to the roof, but he escapes by sawing off his own hand. I hope you're taking notes, people. This is important later. Also, when their camp is overrun, Andrea's sister Amy dies. Finally, most of the group makes it to the CDC, but it's entirely abandoned, except for that guy from The Truman Show, who's also on The Americans now. Crazy Dr. Jenner has decided to blow up the building and end it all, but the group escapes just in time. The group leaves Atlanta and decide to make for Fort Benning, but they run into an impassable traffic jam and set up camp. Carol's daughter Sophia is chased away by walkers, zombies, and I hope you're really curious about what happened next because we're going to be talking about it for a long time. Also, Shane has started going a little sideways and getting a little jealous of Rick and Lori and generally throwing shade around.
What'd you think I'd do to some guy that I don't even like?
Carl is shot by a hunter, oh no, named Otis, who then brings the group back to a farm owned by Herschel. Yay, so it's not all that bad. Herschel's a vet who manages to save Carl and invites the group to stay in the farmhouse while the boy recovers. Carl famously does not stay in the house.
Carl, stay in the house.
Daryl searches for Sophia for a long time. Also, Glenn starts dating Herschel's daughter, Maggie, because, he hasn't heard any of those jokes about sleeping with the farmer's daughter. He also brings back a pregnancy test for Lori that turns out to be positive. But is it Rick's? Is it Shane's? Her relationship status would definitely be, it's complicated if there was such a thing as Facebook. At the farm, there's a barn they're not supposed to go into, but Shane opens it anyways, and it turns out to be full of walkers, not zombies, including Herschel's dead family and Sophia. Woohoo! There she was the whole time, dead. Also, Dale gets bit by a walker and Daryl kills him. Then Shane and Rick get into a fight and Rick stabs Shane in the heart while he yells,
This is you, not me! You did this job, not me!
Then Shane comes back to life and Carl puts him down for good, but the gunshot attracts more hordes of walkers. They light the barn on fire and everyone escapes, yay, except for Andrea, who's left behind and eventually saved by Michonne, although we don't know it's Michonne yet. Rick reveals that he learned back at the CDC that they all become walkers when they die, whether or not they get bit. Rick and Daryl go hunting and discover an abandoned prison. They secure a cell block and move the rest of the group there. There's still some prisoners living there, but you don't really need to get to know them too well, hint hint. Turns out the prison's not totally secure from walkers either, because Herschel gets bit, so they have to cut off his leg. Whoops. Andrea and Michonne run into a bunch of survivors who have been living in a secure town called Woodbury, including their leader, the governor. And hey, it's Merle. He's got a new hand fetish thing. Look at that, it's a sword. Told you that would pay off later. In Woodbury, they call walkers biters, which is weird because they also haven't seen any Romero movies. Michonne doesn't trust any of them and escapes, but Andrea stays and gets it on with the governor. She loves a man with sort of a uniform. Back at the prison, T-Dog dies, but no time to be sad for that character because also Lori dies in childbirth and Carl has to shoot her to prevent her from coming back as a walker. This makes Rick go crazy and he ignores his new baby Judith so he can spend time talking to dead people on the phone. Can you hear me? No. Merle kidnaps Maggie and Glenn, taking them back to Woodbury. He and the governor then torture them until they find out about the group back at the prison. But at the same time, Michonne arrives at the prison and tells them all about Woodbury. Everyone's learning lessons. It's a very special episode of The Walking Dead. Rick started to get a little less crazy, so he, Daryl, New T-Dog, and Michonne go to Woodbury to rescue Glenn and Maggie. They all survive except for New T-Dog, who joins original T-Dog in Walking Dead heaven. Daryl escapes along with his brother Merle, and they head back on their own. Michonne sneaks off to kill the governor and succeeds in stabbing him in the eye. But Andrea stops her before she can finish the job. The governor declares war against the prison group, a very gradual war.
What should we do with them, huh?
The governor says he will only back down if Rick turns over Michonne. He thinks about it for a minute, but then Merle ends up kidnapping her and then setting her free. Then Merle attacks the governor and gets killed, so Daryl sees Walker Merle and a little later and stabs him in the head. But he's, sad about it. Rick and the group flee the prison just before the governor gets there and starts shooting up the place. When they refuse to keep fighting, the governor kills his own guys. Meanwhile, Rick's group arrives in Woodbury, but they're a little too late to save Andrea, who the governor had tied up and left with the walker. Zombie. Biter? Rick has invited some of the survivors of Woodbury to live with them in the prison, but a lot of them start dying, including Zach and Carl's new friend Patrick, who catches some sort of crazy kind of walker flu. Biter flu? Zombie flu? Carol kills 2 more Woodburyans, David and Karen, when they get infected, and this pisses off Karen's boyfriend Tyrese. So much so, Rick kicks Carol out of the prison and tells her to go fend for herself. Don't wanna be all by myself. Glenn gets infected as well. Oh no! And Herschel risks catching him when he agrees to take care of all the sick people. Fortunately, Daryl and new guy, Alcoholic Bob, get back just in time with medicine, so Glenn and Tyrese's sister Sasha will be just fine. Meanwhile, the governor has survived and become the leader of a new group, mostly by killing off everyone else who could potentially become the leader. Then he leads his group in an attack on the prison, decapitating Herschel, and in the chaos, the governor is killed by both Michonne and Lily, a new character from his own group. Oh, that's nasty. Rick and Carl find a bloody baby carriage, but no Judith! And Daryl escapes the prison with Herschel's daughter, Beth. Oh, not sure if I mentioned that before, but Herschel has a daughter named Beth. I'm sorry, Herschel had a daughter named Beth because, rest in peace, Herschel. And now you're all caught up. See? That wasn't that bad.